Well, hello. I'm going to actually today in this video um, use the same blurb that I had sent to the minister of the Unity of Melbourne, where I gave a message uh, actually earlier today um, in Australian time. Wait a minute, no, actually it was yesterday. It's just past midnight here right now. So in any case, I've titled this Mother's Day, My Two Mothers. I see myself as having two mothers, the one who gave birth to me and my spiritual mom. My birth mom and dad told me when I was 18 that they had promised me to God before I was even conceived, before they were married. I was born 9 months and 4 days after the wedding. It was already obvious at the time they revealed this to me, that I was on a unique spiritual path. Already I was giving messages in various churches, preaching my first sermon at age 14 in the largest Assembly of God church in New Jersey, Bethany. Over the years, I had the privilege of learning and speaking in various spiritual groups of different religions. Around 1992 or 1993, I was a leader in the two groups that began in the Chapel of Light in Melbourne, Florida. Reverend Dr. Mary Horgan was the minister of that congregation, and she was the first female minister in Brevard County. She sort of adopted me, calling me the son she never had. When she retired, she invited me to live in the library visiting minister quarters above her garage. It was then that she and I developed an adult mother-son relationship. When she died at 87, I founded the Mary Horgan Center for Spiritual Development in my home, holding one or two weekly meetings per week for over 8 years, until my daughter and her family lost their home and had to move in with me. Indeed, it's been an interesting weekend, uh, culminating in, of course, um, the uh, the appearance, my appearance, and my speaking engagement at Unity of Melbourne here in Australia. I understand there are other Unity churches in Australia, although that's the only one that I knew of, and of course that's the one where uh, Judith Durham's sister goes regularly, although she took ill uh, the night before uh, the night before my visit there, and she was not there yesterday. Uh, but she did speak to the minister, and she intends to be back next week and to meet me. And I've also been told that her sister, uh, Judith Durham, has attended a couple of times at least that congregation. So it's hopefully going to be an opportunity for me to meet the seekers. But it was an interesting group yesterday. There was a lot of feedback in the period after the church service, and of course there was quite a bit actually before I began. I mean, I was introduced to a lot of people, and it was a nice meeting. It's an older congregation. There was only, I think, one person probably under 50 in the whole place, which sort of surprised me. So it's a much older crowd, but very warm and very loving people. And I really appreciated the minister, and I appreciated the conversations that I was able to have with those that were there with me. Uh, and to listen to me. And I look forward to a larger crowd next week, because several people said that they would have been there if it wasn't Mother's Day. So because of Mother's Day, they were not there. But I had two mothers, and again, one of them was my birth mother, of course, and I was raised in the Assembly of God. Uh, that was, that was the church of my upbringing. But especially once I was able to drive, um, I was going to a lot of various churches and various groups and exploring, which I've done throughout my life. I realized early on that my uh, religion was not Christianity, because Christianity is not a religion. It's actually, to me, a way of life that you uh, recognize the Christ in not only yourself, but in everyone. And that's, of course, the teaching of Jesus. The things that I do, you shall do also, and greater things than me shall you do, because I go to the Father. Of course, Christians themselves in the churches that have grown up in the last 2,000 years uh, don't follow that teaching. Very few people do greater things than Jesus did, myself included. And something has been stripped from us and robbed from us so that we do not fulfill our spiritual heritage. But the intent of Christianity, to me, all along, according to what I understand Jesus to have taught, is that we all become children of God in practice, not just in theory, but in practice. And we all have gifts of the Spirit that operate for healing and for uh, ministering to one another, and basically to love one another, because that's the whole culmination of the Christian message. Of course, my mom didn't get it, and she said to me at one point, I remember, and probably many times thereafter, "When are you going to get back to Jesus, Ron?" And I'd always reply, "But Mom, I've never left Jesus." And she'd say, "But you believe such god awful things." And I said, "Yes, like Christ is in everyone, and it has nothing to do with religion," um, which is exactly the way that I feel. Christ is in all of creation. It is the God that created us and made us that is within, and the driving force and essence of all life, whether it's human or animal or whatever it is. All life permeates creation, and life is with a capital L. It's the life of God in creation, and it's everywhere present at all times. But Dr. Mary was a unique person to me. She was the one that came along, and when my own mother was saying, "When are you going to get back to Jesus, Ron?" Um, Dr. Mary came along, and she and I would sit for hours and talk, sitting in front of the river called the Banana River, but or the Indian River rather. The Banana River too was right there, but that was on the other side of the house. The Banana River was in front of us, and we'd sit there and look out over the river together, and we'd have conversations that sometimes went on for hours. And these were regular occurrences in my life, and she was the one that gave me spiritual support, which is why I refer to her as my spiritual mom, or the mother that I never had, someone that would support me in my quest to find meaning in my life and to fulfill what I believed was my calling to ministry. Dr. Mary was the one that gave me that impetus and gave me that inspiration to go on. And I so appreciate the memory of her. And of course, I inherited her home, and that was the very home that was stolen from me uh, when the banks decided to take my house. And after over 10.5 years of living there, I was rudely uh, taken out of my home and lost a lot of my possessions. Uh, in any case, the trip to Melbourne here, and my first visit to Unity of Melbourne here in Australia, was a very good meeting. And Dr. Mary, I think, would have been uh, pleased with the attendance and with the things that went on, and she would have loved the people there, because that was the kind of person Dr. Mary was. She was a wonderful lady, uh, who I continue to be fond of, even though she's been gone for a good while. So I appreciate you taking time to listen to this little talk. And today, my friends and I leave to go to Canberra, where I will be up in Canberra for a while. And then I'll be returning, of course, before the weekend to be at Unity of Melbourne again next week. I still don't have a car that I'm driving here, so that's something else that I have to work out so that I have transportation. But I have lots planned for the rest of my stay here in Melbourne, Australia. So may God bless each of you, and I do thank you very much for listening, and namaste.